I messed up. Here's how I'm going to solve the problem. Going forward, this is how it's never going to happen again. This is where we're at. They don't even get a chance to get upset with you.
Put that coffee down.
Creators are leaders. Be careful what kind of leaders you're producing here.
Helen, we're both in sales. Let me tell you why I suck as a salesman.
They realized that to be in power, you didn't need guns or money or even numbers. You just needed the will to do what the other guy wouldn't.
I'm not leaving. The show goes on.
Well, hello there, friend. Welcome back to the Construction Leadership Podcast. I am your host, Bradley Hartman. Now, before we jump into my conversation with Mr. Mark Weber, I wanted to give you a quick heads up. Starting next week, we are going to be launching our third cohort for our OSR Academy, the Outside Sales Rep Academy. It's 12 months online and offline. It includes our 2-day annual training at the Sales Fundamentals Workshop at the Omni in Fort Worth. And it's a small cohort of really ambitious, young, talented salespeople who really want to improve their skills to deliver more value to the construction community and grow not only their business, but their companies as well. So this is our third cohort. About 3 years ago, we met with several of our clients who recognized that they did not have a predictable, repeatable way to develop young salespeople to become valuable to those that build America. And what they continued to do was to hire young people, have them work inside sales, and then they'd put them out on the road. And then for many of them, found out they were not very good at setting goals. They were not very good at time management. They were not very good at prospecting, and they developed no pipelines. There were no sales forecasts. So we started working backwards to say, what would have to be true if we were to develop a farm system to over a year develop your young talent? So when we did put them on the road, they were able to succeed with a high probability. And for just about 40 or so salespeople, we have already seen some incredible success from young, talented people that have done just that. If you have traditionally just gave new salespeople the keys to their pickup truck and a laptop and maybe a gas card and said, go get her done, and have not been happy with the results, then this might be something you want to invest in. But it is not for everybody. It is not cheap. We have really worked hard to put together a full, robust, year-round program with our best content, as well as every single month we bring in outside talent. These are sales gurus like Mike Weinberg. These are also building owners. So the people that are teaching it are the ones who interact with salespeople in our industry every single day. So the price tag is $19,495. I know it's not cheap, but it's worth it. You can see all the testimonials and reviews by just Googling OSR Academy. If you enroll by June 21st, it's $1,000 off. So that's it. I'm going to quit rambling. Let's talk about Mr. Mark Weber. He's a commercial sales executive at Builders FirstSource in Michigan. So we were doing some training in Michigan, and Mark comes up to me and said, hey, you know, your podcast, it's pretty good. I listen to it often. And I said, well, thank you, Mark. I appreciate you listening. I know you have other options. But he said, but, you know, if you only have like CEOs and executives, it gets kind of lame. Now, this is my memory of such a conversation. This may or may not actually be how it went down, but this is how I perceived it. And I said, okay, no, that's valid. I appreciate the feedback. And we do try to get different perspectives up and down the supply chain, young and more tenured folks. So we try to mix it up a little bit. And I said, do you have anybody in mind? And very confidently, he looked me in the eye and said, yeah, me. You should have me on your show. Now, this was a sales training. So I said, all right, sell me on it. And he proceeded to tell me the story, how he started working in Taco Bell. Then he was selling VCRs, ended up in the industry, and his growth over the last several years is nothing short of the top 1% of the 1% that we see in our industry. And in this episode, we talk about competition and mentorship, the commitment to be the best, and the power of these 5 words, which is, let me be your guy. And what he's going to do for you builders that are listening, you're going to look at your salespeople and think, why don't you act like this more often? And for anybody in sales, what you're about to hear is what the height of this profession looks like and why people want to work with Mark and how he makes their lives easier. So you, my friend, you are in for a treat. Without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Mr. Mark Weber, commercial sales executive at Builders FirstSource in the state of Michigan. As always, thank you for listening. Mr. Mark Weber, welcome to the show.
Yep, thanks for having me.
You got it, man. Can we start with Taco Bell? I'm going to start with Taco Bell. What did you learn working at Taco Bell?
So I call that the introduction to sales.
Right.
So the great thing is I remember the day I started, May 11, 2000.
What? Why?
How I know that is my birthday is May 11th.
Okay.
So I was able to start on day 1, turn 14. I'm legal. I'm not allowed to touch the fryer, anything hot. I can only work the drive-through.
Okay.
So the big push was upsell. And, you want a large drink with that. You want some cinnamon twist. You want some nachos. And I learned to hear the word no over and over again. So I like to say that's how I started my sales career, and getting comfortable with hearing the word no is at the Taco Bell drive-thru.
What was the onboarding like to get you ready to really dominate at Taco Bell?
Well, I would love to say that the training was amazing and it has stuck with me for the last 20 plus years. But I walked in, they said, don't touch the hot stuff. Here's a microphone. Go in the back. You'll find a bag filled with uniforms. Get your size and let's get this baby going.
All right. Well, that was a good introduction to the construction industry. That's how we do it here too.
It's a great introduction into sales. It was kind of, hey, we're going to throw you in the fire. Try not to get burnt. Enjoy. So
from that introduction to sales, you leveled up. When you first described for me the working environment of basically your 200 or 300 level course in sales,
yep.
All I could think about was the 40-Year-Old Virgin, the movie, and that work environment. I went back to watch that movie because I don't think I'd seen it in a decade. It's so funny. That's what I'm picturing. So can you share with the audience what you were selling, what the environment was like, both just with colleagues, but also kind of the sales environment, and tell me if it was anything like what was depicted in the 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Okay. So, at that point, my Taco Bell career is over. Unfortunately, the movie Dude, Where's My Car came out. After too many and thens at the drive-thru, I had to move on to something else.
Yes.
So I led that right into the electronic appliance retail business. Started out selling VCR, DVD combos with a bunch of salespeople that have been around since the 70s, the gold chains. I like to refer to it as the hairy chest, maybe one button buttoned up, and just a very aggressive sales culture. The cool thing about the business and why I'm glad I got to experience it was it taught me how to be competitive. So I played football in high school. I've always been sports driven, right? So it's the alpha male personality type. I got to go 100%. But when I stepped into the room of grown adults as an 18-year-old who thought he was an adult, I found out I wasn't. And, now we have competition. Now we have to go. I mean, it was just reckless, wild, wild west appliance sale. Now that you go watch the movie if you haven't seen it and just say, okay, that's where he started at selling radios and VCRs.
So when you say it was aggressive, give me an example. Is it aggressive towards the buyer or with your colleagues, like first up, or a combination of both?
So a combination of both. So when I tell people, hey, I started here, usually the response is, oh my gosh, those guys are sharks. I hate that place, right? So, but for me and for the staff there, it was kind of a bred competition. So we would have an up box. So first person that got there in the morning, they're going on the list. they get the first customer through the door. So it was a culture that was kind of bred where we wanted to skate. So I'm at the bottom of the list. I didn't show up until 9 o'clock. The guy showed up at 7. It's 11. He's waited all day, but he's not standing in this little up box. And I'm talking about football. I'm talking about life. I'm trying to get him away from that little up box. Customer walks in. Hey, how you doing? That poor man has to go to the bottom of the list, start his entire day over. I took his customer. And so it's super aggressive, but that was the culture that the company wanted. And they maintained that a super aggressive chase customers out in the parking lot to try to get a deal. I mean, it was really an overly aggressive atmosphere. But again, I walked away with some positive life lessons. I think my biggest takeaway is the top salesman for that company. He probably did $4.5 million a year in appliance sales, which is just stellar. What he would do is someone would come in for the $100 washer with 0 features, and he would sell it to them with a smile. And he would say, hey, man, it's a great washer. It washes your clothes. But if you want to use hot water, it's not the one. And everyone else would kind of say, oh, you don't want that. That's garbage. We want to do this. And it was kind of, he never did that. It was always constantly, if this is what you want, it's great. But here's something maybe that might do what you need. Let me ask some questions and figure out how I can make sure you're getting the right product versus you don't want that garbage. You want this. And so I learned feature benefit, which I think is a key to being successful in sales at that place.
Well, I imagine you're doing this now too, I believe what people want is they don't want to feel that pressure. They want to feel like they're in control. I think most people want a range of alternatives. And as someone who wants to help, I want to give you a range of yeses. And if you came in, you've done a little research and you got the flyer, or you guys had the internet back then. It wasn't that long ago, right? You knew you wanted this and you want to get in and out and you know what you want. Great. I want to help you do that. However, I really want to make sure you're aware of the other things that might be beneficial to you in your life that could add value, right? With pros and cons. It's going to cost more, but you get more value. But I'm sure that's something you still offer now because...
Yeah, so we'll kind of transition into the lumber game. When I first started out 2016 in the lumber game, front counter, inside sales. So I'm working more with homeowners. And it was a very, very big feature benefit. What are you looking for? What's the goal we're trying to accomplish here? And, now that I handle mostly larger projects, the transition was simple. It's the same thing, right? You were a purchaser for a big lumber company. You might send me, hey, Mark, I want this vinyl siding. This is great. Well, I might know that in that market, that doesn't sell. Hey, let's have the conversation of maybe this product's a little bit more, but in the market, that's what they're using. So you don't want to bring in a vinyl siding product in a market that's all, let's say, LP, because you're not going to have value in the home that you think you're going to have. So to be able to have those conversations and know what the customer is looking for, and not just what the customer wants, and to have enough respect for the customer to allow them to make that decision and just offer it up is something that I do every day in life.
What did you learn about being a good mentee? I.e., you come into the business, you're around a guy named Jim, and correct me if I'm wrong, you described it as he allowed you to be a mentee, but he wasn't come up, sit beside me, young buck. I will teach you everything you need to know. What did you learn about what to do? And maybe even more importantly, Mark, what not to do to be a young mentee who's going to pick up wisdom to help grow their career from someone who's older and has that expertise?
Yeah. So, right. You're not going to have the Jedi moment. No Anakin's coming, right? Yoda's not helping. Listen, it was May 4th. I got to throw that out. But it's really something as simple as, again, this guy's doing something great. I got to listen. So when he would be on the sales floor, working with a contractor or working with a customer, I would make sure I was 10 to 20 feet away cleaning something. So if he's talking about decking, well, it looks like I'm organizing deck samples today so I can hear what the person's talking about. And I think that's so huge. And unfortunately, not a lot of people are willing to put themselves in that position and just listen. I mean, there's so much talent. I mean, as you know, in the lumber industry, everyone's been here 25, 30 years. I mean, I've been here going on 8 years now, and I'm still considered a rookie. It is an industry that once you find it, you love it, you never leave it. That's just what we are. It's what it is. So what you shouldn't do is go up and say, hey, can you teach me? Because you're going to hear some words that I can't repeat, and it's going to be a hard no. They don't have time, right? The biggest thing in construction industry, no one has time to do anything. I can't take time to teach you. Why am I going to do that? So a lot of people, I think, get frustrated because they ask that question, hey, can you teach me? And they're, no, leave me alone. Well, okay, well, I guess I have to figure it out on my own. But there's ways to do it. And, people love when someone shows them that they're super smart, right? Make them feel amazing. Hey, I don't know how to do this. I know you're really good at deck takeoff. Can you help me do a deck takeoff real quick? I bet you can bust it out in 5 minutes. So you're selling to that internal customer coworker, kind of pumping them up, making them think they're extremely special, and they're going to do it. If someone comes in my office right now and they're like, hey, Mark, you're the best deck guy in the world. I need you. I'm dropping everything I have to help them. So just kind of know that you might have to pump up the coworker, but if you come at it with a positive and, hey, I need you, this is why, most of the time they're going to stop what they're doing and help you out. But if you just straight up ask for help, you're not going to like the response.
If I think of your career and what really drew me to you initially after I talked to you and talked to one of your bosses, I was curious, was there a moment in time where the switch was flipped and you said, that's it. I know where I'm going to pour in all my effort and all my energy. And I've been doing this long enough to know that you can't just look at people and say, oh, this guy's successful, this guy isn't. But you walked by, we chatted for like, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes, and you kept on walking. And Marty goes, he's the guy. He's number one. I'm like, and I said, that guy? I'm like, no. And he's like, yeah, that guy. I'm like, really? I'm like, he just seems too nice. He seems too normal. He seems too whatever, Mark. And he's like, no, dude, he's a killer. And I was just curious, was this something you always had in you, or something happened where you said, that's it, I'm going all in. I have the will to do what other people won't do to be great.
Yeah. So for me, even at Taco Bell all the way through, I want to be the best. Right? That's always been a driving force, is I want to be number one. So at Taco Bell, we would track, upsell. I want to be the leaderboard in the region. When I went to the retail store, I want to be number one in the state of Michigan. That's my goal in life. There's nothing else. And then the same thing kind of transitioned when I got to the lumber game. Hey, Jim happened to be the number one guy, so I got to see it. I know his numbers. Well, I got to do that, because if he can do it, I can do it. What does he do to get there? I just got to copy that. It's not hard. He's already done the game plan. I don't have to think. I just got to copy. So my goal has always been to try to grow and be number one. But where it took a really big turn, where it was like, 2016, 2017, 2018, I'm above average for the position that I'm in, but I'm not that next step. And it was kind of a conversation with a gentleman named Scott Guazdella, who taught me humility. That put me over, right? Because if you would have asked me in 2017, I'm the best. No one's better than me. But I realized that I'm not the smartest guy in the room. People out there know way more. So once I started kind of going, I need to learn something. I'm saying I'm going to be number one, but I'm not investing in sales techniques. I'm not investing in learning the lumber industry on an intimate level. I'll take anything and everything that comes my way. I'm not trying to focus on an area. And so once I learned that, okay, I need to invest, I started listening to podcasts, I started reading books, and I kind of stumbled upon the multifamily market and seeing that it was an underutilized or underperforming sector in Michigan. And I'm going, this is it. So I started reading books about multifamily. I started listening to podcasts about multifamily. I started learning about how the commodity works, how to do per thousand, so I don't have to ask someone to do it for me real quick. And I went all in. And I was fortunate enough to reach out to a client, and they gave me an opportunity. And it was as simple as, there was a newspaper, hey, this big apartment's coming to Gaylord. How exciting for the world. I said, hey, this is right down the road. This is my end. president of the company's name is on the letter. I emailed him, hey, I'm your guy. This is what I do. I love that you're doing this for my community. How can I help you? Where can I help you? And eventually it turned into, we don't think you're ready for the framing package. When I'm calling every 30 minutes, are we good? Is my price great? Right. So they kind of could tell that I was probably a little too green for that, but they said, hey, we'd like to try you out with our interior trim. Okay, well, I'm going to be the greatest interior trim person that's ever been around. I live, sleep, breathe interior trim. And so once that started going good, I started realizing, wait, customers don't like when I got 50 bundles of base left over, or I send out the shoe 2 months early. I got to get efficient with this. And so when you start looking at efficiency in construction, you realize we've dropped the ball pretty well on efficiency, both as a supplier and as a customer. So how do I make that an efficient scope for this company? Because right now it's not. So I do my takeoff, I break it down by the unit, and I print it out on a piece of paper, and I tape it to the window, and I go out and I talk to the trim guys, and I go, hey, let me know if I'm wrong. Here's what I think we're going to do. Let's bring this into the unit. Here's what I think. If you got a half a piece left over, let me know. Let's just write it down. And then I started getting them together. And the next thing you know, by the third building, onesie twosies is all we're picking up. And all of a sudden, the sub's not mad because he's paying guys hourly wages to move it to the next building because he didn't have it figured into his scope. So he's yelling at the developer's yelling at me. And so to be able to take that away was kind of how I started. And then I started doing the cold calling. Hey, I'm this trim guy from Michigan. I'll solve your problems. I'm the guy. Let me be your trim guy. And so by starting on, kind of the bottom of the scale, I was able to look at the big picture because I'm on site about trim, but I'm talking to the framers about the issues they're having with their framing. And I'm talking to the roofer about his issues with the roofing. And I'm going, man, that's the same thing. It really is just putting in the effort and seeing where the pinch points, the headaches are at. That first building's going to have headaches, but that second one doesn't need to. And so if you plan on some failure on the first building, you eliminate it on the second building, all of a sudden you're a valued trade partner with the customer. You're bringing value to them. The PM's not having to deal with the headache. The purchasing department's not dealing with the PM who's mad because they have a supplier just wasting their time. All of a sudden you made everyone's life just a little bit easier. They want you to do more. So a lot of my clients now, we might have started as the interior trim guy. Now we're the everything guy. I'm the framing guy, the window guy, the truss guy, the siding guy. You need bathroom accessories? I'll get you some toilet paper holders. Whatever you need, I'm going to be that guy. And I'm going to set that bar of expectation on myself 3 times higher than you're going to set it for me. So if I fail, my plan A blows up, B, C, D, E, they all blow up. I'm still going to hit your expectation. And you're never going to know that I just went through all this fire and everything blew up and I was stressed out for 2 days is never going to get to you because your bar is so much lower than my own that we're never going to have that issue. And I think by doing that, it has allowed us to be extremely successful.
What did Scott do to reframe your perspective on humility?
Very simple. I'm an overly aggressive person and I am very headstrong. Well, I met another one who's been doing it for about 25 years longer than I've been alive. And I found out real quick that if I'm going to push his button, he's going to shut it down. And so he was in a leadership position. So I had no choice but to listen. And he let me know over the head with a hammer what to do. And then it got to the point where I said, okay, I got to approach this guy differently. I can't approach him like everyone else lets me. I can't go in like a bull in a china shop because he's going to shut down and I lose. So how do I approach him? I got to take a deep breath. I have to be like, okay, I need your wisdom. And, that was 4 years ago now and great relationship with him today. I mean, we fought like cats and dogs and now he's one of my closest calls when I'm in a pickle and I need some help. I know I can call him and he's going to give me some sound advice, sometimes some pretty straightforward advice, but he's going to tell me what I need to hear when I need to hear it. So it's truly appreciated.
One thing that really jumped out at me, and you've done it now, I think 3 or 4 times from a distance and when we were together, was what I kind of refer to it. And I try to take this upon myself, is just surrender to the coaching, which is when someone either makes a statement that you believe, yeah, that's probably right, or there's someone out there to which you aspire to be similar to. If they tell you to do something, you just do it. Does that idea of like surrendering to coaching, does that resonate with you? And how have you kind of adjusted just to see something and just do it? Because so many people will say what they want, but they're not willing to change their behavior to do it. And you seem like a person who really knows how to take coaching.
Yeah. So, I mean, growth mindset is huge. The willingness to know that, and it goes back to the humility, but the willingness to know that you don't know it all. And so if I'm in, for example, your class and you're the expert, right? You're the one that gets the microphone. So I'm in the class and you're telling me this is how you do something. Well, I got to do it. I mean, you're the expert. I'm not the expert. So I'll give it a shot. And there was a couple of things that you said that I thought, I don't know about that. I don't know if that don't click with me, but I'm going to give it a shot because you're the expert. And the recommendation letter was one that just made me uncomfortable. It was hard. And I went, I don't see the value in it. What is it going to do? And you just kept talking about it. I'm like, okay, well, I reach out to a customer and I say, hey, I know this is weird. I'm sorry I'm even doing it, but this guy told me that I need to, and I have no choice because it's eating me alive. Would you be willing to write a recommendation letter? And the response that I got from the person, just the willingness to write the letter, blew my mind. It wasn't even, I got to think about it, let me call you back. It was, oh my gosh, thank you for the privilege of allowing me to write this letter on your behalf. And I'm going, whoa, wait a second, you're thanking me here? I'm uncomfortable as could be, and you're thanking me? And then when I finally got the letter, to be able to see how someone on the other side feels about your character and the role you play within their organization was an amazing feeling. I mean, I was a 7-year-old girl sending you the recommendation letter in an email because I was so excited. Hey, look what this person said about me, right? So I get to have that let my head get big moment and just be thankful that the hard work and dedication that you put in, people do notice it. And so when you ask them for that, it's kind of like, yeah, no, we would love to do that for you. So not only was it a great opportunity for me to have this letter in case anyone says, hey, you have something in the industry that can speak on your character, but for my customer, they were excited for the opportunity to write the letter. It was, wow, Mark thought about me in this situation. So it was really a positive for both sides of the fence. So something that I was uncomfortable with, that I really didn't understand, turned out to be an amazing blessing. And I found that throughout my entire career, that, once you get comfortable being uncomfortable and allowing yourself to do stuff that maybe don't feel right in the beginning, but someone smarter than you said to try it, it usually works out pretty well.
Well, the funny thing there is, and what we're talking about is basically a testimonial and someone on your behalf saying, not only will I testify to his character, but the way that he has helped us run a better business. That is so powerful. Most people aren't willing to ask. And I thought it was funny that you said when you sent that back to me, your interpretation was, well, let me get a big head for a minute. Mm-hmm. And what I found, not that we have, not to overstate this, I don't view this as a mentor-mentee relationship, but in that moment, you said, you mentioned a tactic. I took it from you. You then taking that extra step to say, I did it. Here's what I found and it works. That made my day because I don't know. I run my mouth all the time. I don't know. Some of the things I say might be helpful to other people. Sometimes they don't. But the fact that I was able to help you and you made your builder feel better and you can now use that to help grow your career to basically have a little shortcut to help more people in the future. It's builders happy, you're happy, I'm happy. I'm like, hey, great, So I just think that's powerful. And I think it's really important that what mentors and coaches and executives want from people that work with them is that they're listening and you're putting it into action. And when it works, you're giving that feedback to say, hey, this worked, thank you, right? And you're just really completing that loop. But it's not uncommon where someone say, hey, I tried, this is really good. I said, where'd you hear that from? And they'll say that person. And I'll say, did you reach out to him? They're like, oh, no, he was just on a podcast or something. Like, most people are reachable. I go, you should go take that last step to say, hey, you mentioned this, I did it. You may or may not know me, but thank you. Like, that's how you really finish that loop. And that stood out to me. Talk to me how you implement your let me be your guy strategy. You mentioned that a couple times.
Yep. So the way that we conduct ourselves with a client is my entire goal in life is to be your guy. So when anything happens on a job site, whether I'm responsible for it or not, I want to be that phone call. Something hits the fan, we have some damage. So let's say we have I can actually attest to this. So we can say there's a tornado that goes through a project and you have a bunch of shingles that rip off and windows that break. I have never supplied a shingle or a window to a customer in this situation, and I got a phone call asking for my help. So I want to be that guy. When they're under stress, when it hits the fan, they know that they could call me and I'm going to put the fire out, right? I want to be that guy. So when I call, even in the very first step, I'm doing a cold call. One of the first things I say is, where is your headache? I want to be your Tylenol, right? Let me solve your problems. I don't care if it's a doorknob. I can't ever get the doorknob figured out. If I only ever am the doorknob guy, that's great. I'm okay with that. But, I want to be the guy that deals with the issues on site. Give me the biggest headache you have. Let me solve it. That's all I want in life.
Well, I love that. Let me be your Tylenol. I'll give you a scenario. Can I give you a scenario? Right.
Yep.
Here's a scenario. We got somebody listening and they say, well, I help builders. I sell something. I'm really good at selling, say, framing material, or maybe it's masonry. I'm really good and confident about selling product A, B, and C. Now, in theory, I could sell product D, E, and F, but I don't know. It kind of increases my risk. I don't really know. And then I'd have to get Sam involved. And if Sam dropped the ball, that would really put my whole business at risk. So I'm just going to really only focus on A, B, and C, even though the builder needs all these other things and we supply all these other things. I really am not comfortable doing that. So I'm just going to do what I'm really comfortable with. I'm not interested in trying to help them in other ways, because if it goes south, I could lose the whole thing. Mark, tell me why I'm wrong. How might you approach that?
Well, unless your goal in life is to be the cashier, well, you're wrong, because it is your responsibility as a sales associate to give the customer everything they need that you can provide. And yep, sometimes it's scary and you don't know a whole lot about it, but it is your responsibility to learn the new category. I mean, if someone calls me and says, hey, I need lockers for a locker room, I know nothing about that, but within the next hour, I'm going to be an expert in lockers and locker rooms, right? Do a little research. Don't be afraid to fail. Google it. We have Google that takes 2 seconds. You could be a genius in anything, right? Learn about lockers. Where do they come from? How do I get them? Spend an hour, call the customer back, let them know you're their locker guy and order the lockers. I mean, just don't be afraid of it. Just go for it. What are they going to say? No? Okay, cool. Right? I tried. I gave an opportunity. The customer's coming to you with product E that they're not happy with, looking for you to make them happy. And if your response is that's too scary, then you're in the wrong profession. And again, go be a cashier, ring a customer up and smile, because that's a positive thing as well, but you're not a salesperson.
I'll give you one more complex. The lockers, that's a good example. I like that one. It's a little different. And probably once you bury your nose in there, there's probably a lot of options and features. Talk to me about cabinetry. Most people in our industry are scared to death of cabinetry because of all the styles and problems. And there's probably some skinny ginger like myself working there at 16 who can't pick up a B48, and they're going to smash the corner and they're not going to realize it until they unbox it, just hypothetically. How did you approach cabinetry? Because that's something you and I chatted about a bit.
So, side note, obviously you dropped a B48 once or twice in your life. So let's apologize to the customer on that one.
Right.
But so I've had clients reach out and said, "Hey, Mark, I need you to help me with cabinetry." What I know about cabinetry is that's where I keep my macaroni and cheese, right? That's where I'll start at. That's it. That's what I got. But I thought, okay, I handle all these other scopes. It's just another scope. So luckily for me at Builders FirstSource, we have talent everywhere. So the customer says, I need cabinets. I'm not saying, hold on, let me check, right? So my response to the customer was, yeah, I got cabinets. I'm your cabinet guy. I'll take care of you. Now it's time to go get knowledge, find the right person to help me out in the situation, and figure out cabinets, right? At the end of the day, it's just like siding or roofing. You got steps, you follow the steps, you figure it out. Luckily, again, in this industry, if you reach out to a cabinet supplier and say, hey, I have a customer, here's this, I need your help, we're going to try to sell them cabinets. They want to teach you about cabinets. That is all they do in life is cabinets. And they will come up and they will buy you lunch and you can enjoy cabinets. And you start learning that no matter what the category is, someone out there is a supplier, which means that they have a salesperson whose job is to teach you the product. So for me, I now sell cabinets. Am I an expert in cabinets? I would say no. Can I look at 2020 and tell you what's going on? And can I cut a PO to a customer? And can I handle the fire situations? Because when they'll call, hey, I got this B48 and the bottoms broke out of it. I need your help, right? So one, I got to go talk to the yard guy about loading them up, but I'll get that cabinet coming. And it's just the same as, hey, my outside corner is damaged. Can you get it coming? So I think, again, being comfortable, being uncomfortable is where it's at. Once you figure out how to live in that space and know that it's going to fail, you're going to make mistakes. It's going to happen. That's okay. We're human. How do you solve those mistakes? How do you move past them is where the separation takes place. And so if that means I'm the cabinet guy and I got to do a little research and I got to link up with someone that knows more than me, that's great. But guess what? Now the customer has another scope of business where they have one point of contact. And as you know, as a purchaser, the less phone calls you have to make in a day is amazing. So if I can just cut it down from 30 different guys to 15 guys to 10 guys, I mean, it's huge. So if I can be, 15 or 16 different scopes on a project, I just made the PM's life so much easier, the site guy's life so much easier. And I could have said no. And I could have said, yeah, so-and-so has great cabinets, good luck. But, I took the step, and the customer that we're having to be talking about is going to be a couple million a year in cabinets. So, I mean, it was worth learning.
Yeah, as I'm speculating some on your success, here's the guy who keeps learning, keeps growing, and keeps saying, I want to be your guy for this, and you can count on me. You're not going to be perfect, but I'm going to do whatever I can to minimize the pain for you and be proactive for you. That's how you can, double your sales every single year for 5-6 years or whatever you've been doing. So just hearing you talk about that, I think is just really powerful.
Yeah. And one thing that you said that I kind of want to elaborate on is take ownership of the mistake. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've called, and whether it's my mistake or not, at the end of the day, if it's a product that I even come near, it's my fault. Whether the supplier messed up or my sales support messed up, doesn't matter. I messed up. Here's how I'm going to solve the problem. Going forward, this is how it's never going to happen again. This is where we're at. They don't even get a chance to get upset with you because you've already said, yeah, I messed up. So they don't have to tell me that. This is how I'm going to solve it. So we don't have to talk about that. And this is how we're going to eliminate it going forward. So we don't have to talk about that. So most of the time they're going, oh, okay, cool. So my schedule's off how many days, right? You lost a day. My bad. I apologize. Right? So they go to the board and they change the calendar. We move on. I mean, it's when you start making excuses when the issues start coming. So-and-so didn't show up. So my driver did this. It's not my fault. And all of a sudden they're going to let you know it's your fault. Now you gave them ammo to attack you, where if you just own it and move on, 99% of the time, people are great. I mean, again, it's human on human interaction. For the most part, people aren't inherently mean unless you give them a reason to be. Life is okay.
Yeah. So I'm watching the time here, Mark. Let's talk a little bit about any sort of book standout when you kind of doubled down and said, I'm going to learn myself up. What books do I have to read? What podcasts do I have to listen to? What do I need to do to become the best and kind of have that growth mindset? Any books stand out to you if you look at your career trajectory that maybe came in at kind of the right time to really help you accelerate that?
Yeah. So Jocko Extreme Leadership was a huge book for me. I had just finished the best year of my career. There's a little bit of stress involved. Oh man, that's a lot. And then I heard his stories and the situations that they went through overseas and the stressful situations where they still had to be leaders. And I went, ooh, okay. I just sell lumber, right? I can't complain today, not with what they have going on. So that was kind of an eye-opening one. And then Jim Collin has Good to Great. And it was an amazing book just talking about companies in the same category of business where one's financials are through the roof and the other one is just kind of stale, but they do the exact same thing. So it's kind of like, okay, so I need to be the dumbest guy at the table if I'm doing it right in order to grow. I never want to be the smartest guy at the table. Always look for the next step to be the greatest. And the only way to do that is to look at your peer group and grow.
Love it. Talk to me about podcasts. What do you listen to now, or how do you stay on top? Because you think about all the product categories you've got, all the different various forces that are impacting your customers, whether it's multifamily, whether it's commercial, whether it's single family residential. There's a million things in theory you could listen to. What are you listening to consistently now?
Yeah. So, being in the lumber industry, I love everything about it. And one of the biggest podcasts that I enjoy listening to is the SBCA's Lumber Connect with Molly Butts. For someone who, again, didn't grow up in this industry, to learn about commodity and how to forecast and what's going on, we're OSRs, you have time on the road. Pop it on, listen, learn a little bit about what you do. It's a great opportunity. And then if you love construction and you want to watch and see how to build things, Matt Reisinger, the Build podcast, is a great one to follow. He does an amazing job kind of showing you the ins and outs of construction.
Yeah. Tell me a little about social media. I found like right away, I think you posted something while we were like at the first break at one of our workshops, and a day later, like, oh, when did you put that out today? I'm like, no, he did this while we were together. How are you leveraging social media to maintain top of mind awareness and to deliver value to those people that depend on you?
Yep. So social media is an amazing tool that we have in our bag, especially in the construction industry. We build amazing things. We get to be a part of it. So if I get the opportunity to share a project that I'm working with a client on social media, it builds their business portfolio. It builds my business portfolio. Currently my biggest social platform would be LinkedIn. To be able to have 3,000 plus followers right now, just looking at the projects that we're doing in Michigan, is a great thing. And it's allowed some builders that maybe I wasn't targeting reach out to me and say, hey, I see what you're doing here. Do you do that down here, right? Are you in Detroit? Are you in Ann Arbor? How do I work with you? I see what you do. So it's kind of given me some clientele, and it's given some of my clients jobs. They were able to see some of the projects that they've done and go, hey, we want you to be a developer on this project. So I think if you're in this industry, or probably any industry, just take the 2 seconds, post what you're doing, post what you're growing, let the world see. Super simple.
Well, cool, man. Well, I appreciate you making time here. And I think the goal here of having you on the show is just showing, I wrote the question down. We don't even need to ask it, but like, what should builders expect from their salesperson? You just gave a masterclass on that. And I can guarantee you there are some people that are listening to this right now that are not feeling great because they thought they were doing a lot. And they're going to listen to what you've done and say, oh man, I'm not doing enough. And there's a whole bunch of builders who are like, how do I get that guy? How do I get my version of Mark Weber in Tyler, Texas, or, Fresno? So it's been fun just over the last several months to kind of learn about you and your success and everything you've been able to accomplish in such a short amount of time. So hats off to you, and just know that it doesn't stop. you better keep growing. And, this is just the early stages for you. So thanks for making time, man.
Yep, for sure. Thank you so much.
All right then, friend, how did that go? Hopefully you enjoyed my conversation with Mark Weber. He's a lot of fun to talk to. And after I got done, I'm not going to lie, I had to go outside, got some fresh air, threw my earbuds in, listened to a little Eye of the Tiger, said I'm going to go run 5 miles. I didn't. I got about 50 yards down and said, actually, I don't have time for this, nor do I have the stamina. And I came back and I sat at my laptop and decided to record this. But that's the sort of inspiration I get from Mark Weber. So hopefully you enjoyed that. I did ramble on at the beginning about our OSR Academy. If you are serious about developing talent, not exactly like, but similar to some of the skills that a guy like Mark Weber has, the OSR Academy might be for you. It is not cheap. It's around 20 grand. You can save $1,000 by signing up by June 21st. We are giving away a bunch of free content from that as a way to kind of demonstrate what's in the program. We've had almost 40 people go through the program in cohorts 1 and 2, and cohort 3 will already be our largest cohort. We know that. It's an online, offline program. It goes a full 12 months, and we really dive into the details from everything from understanding differentiation, using the phone with confidence, delivering unique value first, negotiation based on the training I got when I was working at Pulte that I used against people in these roles. And we have some of the absolute best training talent who's going to be part of this, including people from the building community. So we have owners of home building businesses. We have guys who do multifamily and commercial. They join us to help share what they want to see out of the sales reps that they will partner with. It's a unique program. There's nothing like it. If you are interested, Google OSR Academy or shoot me an email, info@bradleyhartmanandco.com. If you follow our newsletter, the Construction Leadership Newsletter, we are going to be offering an opt-in where you can get a bunch of free content to see if it's right for you. And at the end, you can save $1,000 and join us, even if it's not a fit for you, but you are trying to develop more talented salespeople who deliver more value first in our industry. You should absolutely be part of that. Again, go to bradleyhartmanandco.com, sign up for our newsletter, take the free stuff regardless. Some of the best stuff that we have that is part of that program. All right, I'm done. You're owed nothing. Deliver value first. Make it a great week.